So actually, just before I start singing, this is a message to everybody that is watching at a later time, meaning you're listening to the recording. I just wanted to give you a heads up on this video, and I'm going to repeat this heads up later on. It is quite an experimental procedure we're about to experience today. I'm going to try to practice a level of group clearing that I've not tried to do before. And so this is a message to the replay people, just to know that if you're driving or anything like that, just pause this video, because actually the whole video is kind of going to be a healing experience, and I'm going to explain when I get the show going here. But yeah, if you're listening to the replay, just know that it's going to be a little bit of an intense experience, and I'm going to explain when I get the stream really going. But for now, I'm just going to do my intro singing song thing. Good evening, family. Thanks, Sarah. Good evening, everybody. So if you are feeling resonant with these vibrations, please do share this video. We have quite the show coming on today. I am very inspired to try something very explorative, experimentative, experimentality. Yeah, so I figured why talk. Yeah, I figured why talk about the false matrix and just talk about it. We're going to try to experience a level of collective healing that I have not attempted in the past. So if you're driving or if you're not able to actually participate, please pause the video and come back later, because today's transmission is really going to be kind of a healing ceremony the whole way through. And I'm going to explain in just a second, but if you're feeling like there's a starseed out there in your life that could use this support, or if you just feel excited by these vibrations, please do share this with your friends. Thank you so much. All right. So, good evening. Welcome to, I think this is day 7. Thank you, Judith. I think this is day 7 of our 11-day challenge. And we are very excited because today's topic, it's about the false matrix, but I'm just about tired of talking about the false matrix. And as I was kind of receiving the codes for tonight and realizing that, we're going to be talking about very specific things in all of our bodies, I'm actually going to attempt to facilitate a clearing of, common implants and things like that in our system. And so, of course, this is a optional ceremony. And if you would like to participate, all you have to do is be in a state of yes and receptivity. And if you don't feel like you would like to receive these healings for whatever reason, I won't be offended. All you have to do is say, no, that's not for me. These energies really just are here to support, and they'll just kind of tickle at the field. But, you're always a autonomous being. And so I just want to give a heads up that listening to this video, really my warning was just that if you're driving, please don't listen to this if you're driving. If you just have this on in the background, that's totally fine. And if you're able to have a space that's more ceremonial, you definitely receive more benefits from being in the space, if you can focus. And so today we are talking about how the false matrix control system has affected our multidimensional body, and it's really a conversation that we're continuing, right? We've been talking about these things all week, and today I really want to go into just the really specific things of how these programs look like, what these programs are. I feel like we're going to get a more detailed idea of what I'm talking about, and hopefully that gives you more clarity as you move forward. And I'm going to attempt to facilitate this group clearing process. So Again, it's going to be pretty intense. If you want to go and just get a glass of water, that's going to support you. I'm going to send the vibrations into the water as well, so that you can integrate as we continue. Um, let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so like I was saying, this process is completely experimental. I know that this experiment is actually a process for my learning just as much it is for you to have a healing experience, because I know that, I'm testing out new technologies and new things that have activated in my system, new skills that I have gained over the last month in this activation cycle. And so I would love to get feedback as well. If whatever it is that you experience, even if it's nothing, please let me know, so that, this is actually how I grow. My system really love feedback, because I actually never know how people receive this energy. I don't know how people perceive me. I don't know if you just think I'm some crazy lady. And even if you think I'm a crazy lady, I would love to hear from you, because I know that when my system is online, I will come off as an intelligent and understandable person. But if my system is distorted, then I will come off like a crazy person. And so if you give me the feedback that I'm kind of, a little bit crazy, that'll let me know that I need to do some alignment. So whatever it is your experience is, I would love to hear about it. You can email me at earthstarhealer@gmail.com. And so we're going to attempt this collective healing process today. Is really going to help me understand better, help me learn better and better how to facilitate this kind of support and healing, because this is really why I'm here. This is really what my mission is to support all of us in our multidimensional healing and all multidimensional integrity and activation of our bodies in all dimensions. And so thank you for being my spiritual guinea pig. Nothing in this field will harm you. Absolutely not. It's just that, whether it's going to work or not is really the question. So we'll see how this goes and how this happens. So basically, let's see. This might be lengthy. I'm going to make it as straightforward and compact as possible. And so what we're going to be doing is basically going through the chakra system, and we're going through I think, 7 chakra system, just because, there's a lot of different chakra systems. And if we go through them all, we're going to be here forever. And so going through the regular chakra system is just going to give us the framework to work off of. So that's the framework that we're going to use today. I'm going to go through all of the chakras, and basically, first, I'm going to speak to you about the distortions that exist in those centers, and then we're going to go ahead with a implant/distortion removal process. And again, you don't have to participate. Even if you're hearing me say the words, you can just say, no, I don't want that for whatever reason. Your system will just choose not to integrate that energy. And, with these things, my intention is to always bring in the energy and the vibrations that are in alignment with your highest source connected aspects and highest timeline of embodiment and happiness and joy and love. And so just know that these are always my intention, and this is a space we're creating. And so we're just going to dive right into it today, okay? So we're going to start here in the soul star and the crown chakra. And in the soul star and the crown chakra, the false matrix constructs that exist there is predominantly spiritual conditioning. So our understanding of spirituality, so there's no God, there's a judgmental God that's a white old guy that has a beard that sits in the sky and it judges you, right? Or, that God, is constantly just waiting for you to do the wrong thing so he can punish you later. A lot of people subconsciously have these beliefs around spirituality, even if they didn't grow up in those religions. Even my vessel, I grew up atheist. My parents are completely non-religious, but I have found coding in my system that related to, women are terrible because we got everybody kicked out of the garden. Like that kind of collective curse beliefs, so I like to call them, even if you did not grow up in a religion, you could have taken that in from the collective and you can carry it in your multidimensional body. So a lot of the religions, I would say most religions on earth, were actually kind of reverse engineered into weapons, because, for example, like a lot of spiritual teachings will tell you to go and seek spirit, when actuality, that's the trap. So if you're always striving and trying to become spiritual, then that not being spiritual is kind of inherent in that state, right? So the belief that we have to suffer and abstain and strive towards perfection, it really locks us into being imperfect, because you have to be imperfect to be in the state of striving towards perfection. So do you see, that's really tricky. I mean, that's part of the mind control, is that they really created that on purpose for you to be stuck in the state of imperfection. That is the curse. And so we're realizing that, my belief is that we are originally inherently naturally spiritual and divine, just like all things that exist in this living creation. And so clearing all of our perceptions about our inherent imperfection is part of the clearing in this chakra. So let's see. The implants that I commonly see in this area of the body are source blockers. They're usually kind of this disc-like metallic / plastic feeling object that has different colors. Usually it's black with kind of dots. And the intention or the purpose of this implant is obviously, as the name refers to it, is just it's blocking you from your full-on source access. So sometimes this manifests as a tightness in the head, especially if you're having a spiritual experience, but then it just feels like the top of your head is just like tight and hard, and it hurts a little. So the next implants that I see a lot are dream harvesting technologies. If you have kind of the same frequency when you're in the dream, it's kind of this weird frequency, but you're there a lot, or you don't dream. People sometimes have these dream harvesting technologies. It's all about the energy. It's all about harvesting energy. So energy harvesters, sometimes there are side of the head implants that kind of broadcast thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts can sound like your own voice, but the thoughts are very often, degrading thoughts that are not loving towards you. So, unnatural thoughts like that. AI patterns, sometimes you get the song stuck in your head and it's not a song that you want, but it's just like almost like you can hear a radio frequency and it's just repeating the song in your head. That could be an implant or literal a sign of heavy metal poisoning in the brain. So sometimes if you have restless thoughts, you just can't relax, and there's just a lot of thoughts like, oh, and then I have to do this and this and this and this, and you can't relax. Again, it's all about the energy. So if they can get you in that state, then they can harvest that thought energy. So sometimes I tune in, I see a kind of a column between the third eye and the soul star, and they'll almost be like amoeba looking things, because the channel is not totally open, and it's almost like bacteria is growing in there, and it just kind of muffles the frequency transmission between those chakras. So we're going to go ahead and work on removing those implants. And so go ahead and just close your eyes for a moment. And again, we're going to just do our best here. So just close your eyes, and we're connecting in with this light technology. You may feel that it is just my energy, and this really is just this energy of source. It's like almost like a room. You go into like a sauna or something. We're creating this field around you, this field of source energy, to assist in the removal of all artificial implantation that are not in service to your highest love and highest joy. And we're calling in our higher self, our highest source connected aspects of self, and only those galactic and elemental and other helpers that are in resonance with our highest love and joy. Only those benevolent energies may be present here with us right now. And so we're going to go ahead and begin the implant removal process. Source of creation, we're commanding for everyone in this energy field now or later who are in receptivity to this energy transmission at this time. For all implantation and vibrations and energies in resonance with source blockers, dream harvesting technologies, energy harvester technologies, AI interference and neural patterns, restless thought implantation, and as well as all implantation and blockage in the crown and soul star regions of the body that are blocking us from experiencing our highest vibrations of self, that are blocking us from embodying our highest level of our mission at this time. We're commanding for a complete clearing of all energies, objects, templates, aspects, which are blocking us from experiencing the highest version of ourself at this time. So just breathe. And extending that energy down through the neck as well. And source of creation, we're also commanding for a complete neutralization of fear programming, of looping technologies that keep us looping thoughts relating to fear and outdated beliefs and paradigms and versions of self. Take a deep breath and release. Okay, so I'm going to move on here to the third eye. So we're still in the general region of the top of the head here, the higher dantian. And the third eye is interesting because this beautiful friend once said to me, it's all in the optics. And this was such a huge download to unpack because it made me realize that the way we look at things, they say that the eyes are a window of the soul. And so, you either are looking through the window or it's the prison bars, right? You're looking through prison bars. And we say it's all in the optics because the way that we look at things is the way that we perceive reality. And so in the false matrix, we have been duped into not acknowledging the existence of other realms, and intellectual reason and logic kind of blocks out intuition and gnosis. And most importantly, people are trained to not perceive the world as if it is a thing that's alive. And so we think that, the tree is just this inanimate object. We think that, animals are just, stupid creatures that don't have understanding or empathy. And so we're trained to have the optics of death. And so especially this level of optics is actually trained or programmed by cartoons and video games and radio music. The frequencies of radio music is actually unbearable. Like I will literally get a headache and just like spasm, have a seizure. So these frequencies alter consciousness and literally program your consciousness to be in a certain vibration. And I find that in traditional shamanic healing and soul retrieval processes, people don't think to go looking for soul pieces in artificial realms because for the most part, TV is a relatively modern thing and shamanism is not really so common now. And so in my work, the most surprising thing has been literally finding fragments of people's souls in realms of cartoons that people used to watch when they were children. And those cartoons were created with the research findings of the MK Ultra programs, and they were intended to basically do exactly that, to siphon conscious energy, to program consciousness, and people will literally lose and experience soul fragmentation that gets lost in those artificial realms. And so basically when we are perceiving all of these energies of artificial light, this actually creates artificial geometries in our human consciousness. And so we think that, human nature, it's hatred and jealousy and lust, competition, when in actuality, those are actually hijacking of the original template and geometries of consciousness. They are not natural. They're programmed, they're viruses. And so if you've been doing self-work for a long time and still wonder why, some lower vibrational thought forms and things are hard to clear, it's because there's artificial templates and geometries that are literally just in the light body itself. And it's not really anything that you have to heal specifically so much as just restore the geometry of that part of your body. And this work takes, a lot of time because we spent so long in the distortion that almost every belief and every program and every ounce of our energy needs to be released and liberated. And so in the cranium, I will often see artificial matrices of false light created by thought patterns and neurons which are not natural or connected to source. So here we go. We're going to embark on our clearing segment for the third eye. As the source of creation, we're commanding for all beings participating in this container at this time for energies to be brought in, which clears all dimensions of artificial light interference in the cranium and the neural pathways, to clear all AI patterning of consciousness and all artificial patterns of consciousness. We're commanding for a complete clearing and restoration of all distortion and damage created by artificial programming involving MK ultra frequencies and all the different ways those frequencies are perpetuated through our society. We're commanding for a complete restoration of our original geometries of divine consciousness. And source of creation, we are commanding for a retrieval of all soul aspects, consciousness energy, which belongs to each soul, which are trapped in all realms, including artificial frequency realms created by artificial light frequencies and TV programming, and clear those energies and soul pieces with the love light of Source. Just go ahead and return those energies through the higher self and the higher heart back into the body. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete reintegration of fractured consciousness created via TV programming and all related false light distortions. Commanding for a complete clearing of all distortions and geometry of consciousness in all dimensions, in all of time space, in all parallel selves, in all of the genetics, and so it is. Okay, so now we're going to move on to talking about the throat chakra. So, the throat chakra is truly a miraculous gift. As we oscillate our voice box, what we're actually doing is transmitting vibration or intention and literally inscribing the fabric of reality. And I can watch this process happen, obviously as an oracle, that even when I'm singing, it's like I always actually know the vibration and what the codes are because they come in through my higher consciousness and my back of the third eye, Melpanini chakra, and unpack the vibration and go, okay, yeah, this is the medicine, or this is a vibration which addresses whatever it is. And then those geometries and then are translated by my throat chakra, and these melodies and geometries and intervals come through, and they carry the intention. They've been inscribed with the intention. And as that sound frequency resonates out from the throat, it interacts, because when you think about it, what is sound? Sound is literally vibrating through the air. It's vibrating through space, right? And so that intention that you had is literally being then resonated into space, literally. How cool is that? So somewhere in my ancient mind, I remember a world so connected and knowing of this mechanics of reality that only times we resonated our voice box was when we wanted to use it to pray, to praise in reverence to the creation, and to share intimately from the depth of our soul, together, or to manifest and create ripples in the fabric of reality. It is such a intimate and brilliant and important part of our creator's anatomy. So, you guys love it when I share the oracle singing, but the truth is, it's really not supposed to be a rare gift. It's just a reflection of how, when we're a liberated and present human being, this voice box is literally designed for us to express and experience flight, for us to experience, the shifting and the movement of energy and vibrations of God, and for us to literally experience flying inside of them. And we're meant to do this together. We're meant to create these symphonies of sounds of God so we can experience these vibrations of joy. These voices are created for this. And so you think about then how in our world, how many times do we use our throat to literally just talk about shit? And I know a lot of you are really tired of those things. As soon as people start just talking just to talk, it's almost like this battery dies and you're like, I gotta go. So the most predominant implants I see in the throat chakra, of course, there's the usual blockages in the throat when light workers feel, these vibrations of persecution, where in the past you have shared truth and you have talked about certain things, and that got you killed, that got you locked away and tortured. And so those traumas, often create these blockages in our throat. But also, all that time we lived in the false matrix and we were literally forced to speak bullshit that our soul did not want to speak. This creates this dissonance in our biological body, because our biological body exists perpetually in a vibration of divinity and the vibration of source creation. It's physical. It's one with the fabric of reality. It's never not in that vibration. So when our consciousness falls out of that vibration and we start forcing our body to do things that are not what the body wants, this is when the body starts to break down, right? So hospitals really are just the war medical centers that are keeping people going. They're like, okay, you're fucked up because the reality's fucked up. Like, let's just patch you up and send you back into the whatever. Because if we were living in alignment with source, these bodies, we're not supposed to be sick. They're not created to be sick. And so thinking about the voice box then, how many times were you forced to make a presentation in school about something just really stupid? And you had to use your voice box and talk about it, and you're like, whoa. Or, you're at school and your friends just really want to talk about the last episode of Gossip Girls. And they're like, oh my God, have you seen who so and who? Like, what are they wearing? Like, all of these energies are the opposite of what your throat wants to express. And so when you do this, it creates almost this imposter energy. That imposter energy where for example, for the most part, the false matrix enforces itself by, it's almost like peer pressure, right? You feel like you have to fit in, you feel like you have to be normal. And so when we participate in those things, I worked at a telemarketing center for a while, and I had to call people and use my voice to literally ask if they want to buy some kind of different credit card. It's just like an absolutely absurd way to use my voice and to use this super sacred treasure of an instrument that literally communicates with the fabric of reality. So when we do that, we can create, trauma and pain in the throat chakra. And sometimes there can even be, these little implants that it's like, do you ever notice that your voice changes when you're in different moods, or when, you're different frequency, or you're talking to different people? If you're talking to like somebody about, spiritual stuff and like higher vibrational stuff, and you're really passionate and excited about it, your voice is in a certain vibration. But then if you're talking to somebody about groceries and you're really annoyed, your voice sounds different. So sometimes we create these artificial voice boxes to handle and deal with the false matrix. And when we forget or we don't know how to remove them, we can get stuck in spaces where we're speaking things that aren't helpful or connected or healthy. And so, being so connected and in love with my voice, oftentimes I can just tell when people have imbalances and blockages just through listening to their voice. It's almost like through the acoustics of their voice, I can just pick up even where the blockage is coming from. And everybody has this skill. It's just I've been a super nerd, and this is what I've been obsessed with for the last decade. um, but, tuning into the voice and seeing, even speaking and feeling into how you feel about your own voice, that is a healing in and of itself. So if you write that down, if you're feeling resonant with that, to do that later. So we're going to go ahead and do our healing process for our throat chakra here. Source of creation, we're commanding for an energy to be brought into this field for the participants, which clears all dimensional blockages in the throat chakra relating to resistance and traumas relating to persecution. And just releasing all feelings and patterns of guilt and shame around ways that we have related to our voice in the past, bringing in multidimensional forgiveness into all dimensions of the throat chakra. And we are commanding for a complete clearing and removal of all implantation relating to imposter spirits, imposter voice boxes, and distortions in our voice, which are keeping us from channeling divine source energy into our reality. And of course, just all implants in this general area, in all dimensions, in all of time space, which are hindering our ability to embody our highest self in this now. Commanding for a complete restoration of the divine blueprints of the throat chakra in this now, in all dimensions, in all of time space, in all of our genetics, in all dimensional aspects of ourself. And so it is. Thank you. And just breathe. Oh, a couple more breaths here. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing in all geometries and energies, patterns, resonating with this belief that what we have to say is not worthy of being heard, that we'll be ridiculed and made fun of if we were to speak what was meaningful to us. Clearing all blocks relating to feeling that somebody with more authority outside of us is oppressing our voice. Whew, that was a big one. Source of creation, we are commanding for a complete clearing of all disempowerment and disembodiment in the throat chakra and in our voice. And finally, source of creation, we are commanding for a complete restoration of the original, empowered, inspired, divine, liberated expression of our throat chakra. Deep breath. Okay, so now we're moving into the heart chakra. And for the most part, the balancing in the heart chakra is relating to giving and taking and conditional and unconditional love. And the false matrix, it thrives in conditional love. Your hair has to look a certain way. You have to get good grades. You have to, perform in a certain way in order to be loved, in order to be accepted. Or I will only give you love if you do this, if you're like that, that's conditional love. Or we're kind of programmed to give more than we give to ourselves. Or some people, they take a lot more than they give. And so our world kind of have upset the balance of these levels of love. And the heart chakra, also carries this seal for the most part. People have this seal called the zeta seal that was placed in the multidimensional body of humans by the zeta reticuli. And so this seal has been literally begging me to, the collective has been begging me to remove this seal because it really makes such a huge difference. And so we're going to attempt to do this collectively. I know that, I can do this on a personal level, and I've been doing this on a planetary level, so I theoretically should be able to hold space and command for this seal to be removed. This is kind of where the experimentation comes in. So obviously, be in your divine sovereign energy and also command for this to happen. So source of creation, we're commanding for all the beings participating in this vibrational field, for the zeta seal in fourth density to be removed from the multidimensional body in all dimensions, in all of time space, for all beings in this field, in this now, that is in alignment with their highest joy and highest love. We're commanding for a complete clearing and removal of the zeta seal in all dimensions in all of time space for all beings participating in this field. And for a complete release and clearing of all trauma and energies relating to that seal. So another thing that's coming through right now is talking about like the sexual misery programming that very often relates to the heart as well, because as human beings, we experience sexual union and sexual energy obviously connected to a heart. A healthy human being experiences love on those levels of intimate exchanges. But in our world, in the false matrix, there's so much examples of, love is pain. You're never going to find the one. And if you find somebody, you should allow them to abuse you. All of these little connotations and subconscious beliefs that love should be painful, especially in the New Age community with the twin flame ideas and how, many of the false light twin flame teachings really ask for people to perceive pain as some sort of martyrdom, some sort of planetary, like I'm offering the planet my pain, and that's the only way that I'm worthy of being a light worker, or whatever, like that, whole program. And so here we're releasing all program in the heart chakra relating to understanding that love is pain. That pain is inevitable when it comes to love. What a bunch of bullshit. And that, even just intimately connecting to anyone is inevitably going to lead to pain. All of these programs were clearing out of the multidimensional body in this now, in all dimensions, in all of time, space, in all parallel selves, in all of our genetics. And it's like only when these programs and these seals are removed do you notice, how much love is able to freely flow through those chakras, and how much, oneness you can immediately then begin to feel for even strangers. Like, think about how much programming there is around, stranger danger. All other people are bad, don't love them. There's something wrong with them. So all of these are little programs in our heart chakra that create walls that keep us separated from each other. And so, source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all artificial implantation and programming and geometries in the heart chakra that is hindering our experience and expression of the highest level of love that is appropriate at this time for each body. And you can trust that your higher self is really in charge in these situations. They're giving you exactly the amount of energy that you can handle, that you can process at this time. You can always come back to these recordings. You can always continue this work on your own. I really feel that, these are teaching containers. Like anything that is occurring here in my presence, you are absolutely able to do in your own space. And the more that you do it, the more that you command your sovereignty and your autonomous embodiment, the easier it becomes. And so here, source of creation, we're commanding for a release of all trauma looping implants and technologies which keep you looping in a certain pattern of heartbreak or sadness and grief. In all dimensions, we're clearing all implantation relating to looping implants that keep us looping or repeating our trauma or repeating experiencing our trauma. Just clearing all patterns and emotional energies that are frozen in that vibration. And of course, when our personal energy is released, we're clearing it with the love light of source and just returning that to our body and field in all dimensions, right through our higher self and our high heart. Whew. And so one more clearing in the heart chakra here. This is in the back of the heart. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all seals, geometries, and patterns in the back of the heart, which hinders our ability to experience cosmic creational love in every now moment. And that includes any feeling of unworthiness, any reptilian overlays, and any programming which hinders our ability and experience of cosmic creational love in every now moment. That is what we are deserving to experience literally in every now in your vessel. And so clearing all distortions and belief systems that hinders your ability to receive that, to experience that, just pulling that right out of the body. Completely restoring in all dimensions and all of time space our ability to experience and receive and express cosmic creational love in this now. So we're going to go ahead and move into the solar plexus here. So the solar plexus and below gets a little bit more complicated because this is where kind of our human stuff is. And our human stuff requires different physics and different techniques and different amounts of time to work through, because you can't just remove your inner children, right? Um, and opposing to certain spiritual teaching that say you should kill your ego, you actually definitely do not want to kill your inner children. And so we're going to do what we can here today. Certain geometries of programming in the solar plexus, relating to unworthiness or just having lived a long time not knowing who you are and thinking that is normal for you to not know who you are. And thus, that lack of awareness of yourself can end up having you express this energy of, I want to say unconfidence, but I'm pretty sure that's not a word. Insecurity, uncertainty. When you don't know what your mission is, that's definitely predominantly in the lower chakras, because there's definitely that part of you, that very clear part of you that knows why you're on this planet right now. And if you're constantly saying, I don't know, it's because there's a part in the solar plexus or below that's repeating that narrative, and it could be stuck in a looping pattern. And that part of you is probably screaming way louder than the part of you, that the subtle part of you that knows who you are and has gnosis and knows the truth. So there's a balancing here of, the narcissism or the arrogance where people believe they're greater than they actually are. Or then there's, the opposite side of the spectrum where you can't recognize the things that you are good at. And this is two ends of the same spectrum of the unhealthy or wounded ego. And in our society, we kind of think that the insecure empath is kind of almost like a good thing, and it's really not, right? That is a program or a curse on its own, because there is a force that do not want the empaths to empower yourself. They want you to be weak. They want you to be insecure, so you can't do what you're here to do. And so do not for a moment think that a false sense of modesty is actually good for you. If you don't know how powerful you are, if you don't know what you're good at, then you're not going to be able to complete your mission. You're not going to be able to nurture and, fuel those things that light you up. You're not going to feel like you deserve to do that. And so here, Some of you are feeling this one. So take a deep breath. Source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all energies and distorted geometries in the solar plexus, leading to false modesty, any beliefs and fears around the expression and embodiment of who you truly are. And we're commanding for a complete clearing of all energies and patterns which are hindering for the highest embodiment of your soul's divine sovereign power in this now, in all dimensions, in all of time, space, in all parallel selves, in all of our genetics, in this now. We're commanding for a complete clearing of all patterns, fragments, energies, beliefs, which are hindering complete embodiment of your own soul's power and divinity in this now. Ooh, phew. Ooh. Breathe it out. All right, I'm sweating, y'all. All right. I gotta prepare myself before going into the sacral chakra here. All right, so our sacral chakra is probably the highest underrated chakra, probably the root chakra too. Most underrated chakras. And the sacral chakra gets a lot of heat and a lot of hate because this is where your cosmic creation energy is generated. And so there's a force that do not want you to know how powerful you are. They do not want you to know how valuable this energy is. And so they're doing everything they can to try to lie to you and tell you that this energy here is shameful, that it's not good enough, that it's not beautiful, that you should be ashamed for even connecting to it. You should be ashamed of even connecting to it in your private home by yourself. You should definitely be ashamed if you express it, as a expression of love for the universe. And there's also weird dynamics here of like multi-level, multi-dimensional prostitution, right? When we trade our creative energy for something else, like if we have to go and work in an office, even though we hate it, on some level, actually that's soul level prostitution, right? So there are all of these distortions in this energy that are subconscious, that are kind of forced upon you by just existing in the false matrix. And so down here is also the energies of disgust. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in because I've talked a lot about, the degradation of spiritual energy and how the false matrix just, does everything it can to degrade this energy. Just look at all the music videos that you're seeing and how, sex is portrayed in TV shows. It's just like this ridiculous social trading. I'm out of words. I'm sorry. It's just so ridiculous. So just kind of integrate that for a moment, right? Like we are literally creator beings. And this world made us feel like we're just these little hyper-sexualized prostitutes that are jumping around and putting, fake breasts in us and all of these things that kind of value our sexuality in the wrong way. It's like sexuality in and of itself is the value, when in actuality it's is reflection of the cosmos, of cosmic creational energy. That's what is valuable about it. And actually that is what sexual energy is, and that's what all of you are, is a divine creator, sovereign being. And so that's the energy that is supposed to be in the sacral chakra. That's the energy that you're supposed to feel, is this warm, creational, lava-like, nebulous, creational energy that feels so good. And that should speak to existence itself. It's like we were all created out of love and out of pleasure. When our parents come, in the perfect reality, our parents come together and they have just the greatest pleasure, and then we are created. And so that should speak, in that design, it shows you that we are created to experience pleasure and joy and love. That is how we're created, and that is what we're meant to experience in this creation. And that is the experience we're meant to have within all of our creations and everything that we do, in every social exchange that we have, in every relationship that we have in. So the sacral chakra is our channel, our water chakra is the chakra of relating. It's how we flow the water of our being with other beings, how we exchange our energy with other beings. So, that's constantly happening. Even if you're just saying hello to people, even if you're just talking about something, you're exchanging, your cosmic creation energy. And so, source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all energies relating to sexual misery, to all programming, MK Ultra programming, and related mind control techniques relating to the sexual misery, energy, and negative alien technologies in all dimensions and all of time space. We're clearing this out of the field. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all parasites, parasitic energy, astral entities which are feeding off of sexual misery energy in all dimensions, in all of time space. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all distortion and trauma related to sexual trauma, sexual misery in all dimensions, in all of time space, in all parallel selves, in all of our genetics, clearing all geometries in resonance with that of sexual misery and sexual trauma. And just breathe that energy through. Yeah, some of you might be feeling a bit nauseous. Just breathe through it. Breathe that energy right out. Breathing in golden light into the sacral chakra and exhaling, releasing the energies that are being cleared. no longer in resonance with your soul's highest embodiment at this time. And source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all beliefs relating to this energy of my sexuality is shameful, my sexual energy is shameful, my sexual energy is something I have to hide, or something that is taboo. Clearing all vibrational energy, templates, geometry, thought forms, beliefs in resonance with this idea that my sexuality is dirty, that is not sacred, that it is disgusting. In all of our genetic lineages, through our DNA, clearing these vibrations out of all dimensions of our infinite bodies, multidimensional selves, parallel lifetimes, and all of our genetics. And so it is. And sometimes I will literally see this netting over people's sacral chakras. Most of my clients are women. And so I've actually not worked, I think I've had like 4 male clients, last year. So I'm sure that there are similar implants in the male body, but I have the most experience working with female bodies. So we're going to go ahead and release all programming and implantation in the womb, and all programming that has inscribed the womb as a breeder of slaves and a breeder of um, subjects. And we think about how, we're just so unconsciously making babies and sending them right into the false matrix. Like, I'm really just talking about that very subtle subconscious program that, we're all subtly tricked into creating food for the false matrix. And we're fooled into believing that the only way we can create is by creating a child, when the truth is there are so many ways we can apply our creative energy if we cycle it through our entire body and activate our higher mind and our inspiration and our imagination and our high heart and our cosmic creative motivation. When we activate these higher aspects of our creational energy, there's just so many ways we can co-create with the fabric of reality. And so we're clearing all subconscious programming and the generational societal curses around our creational energies in all dimensions and all of time space. In all parallel selves in all of our genetics. And so it is. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and just clear that energy off of the planet as well. All geometries or beliefs and curses that inscribe her as the birther of slaves, or clearing that program and that paradigm from the planetary reality. I'm sweating. So just breathe, expanding the belly as far as it will go. Just allowing the energy to penetrate through here is pretty dense. It's probably going to take us another minute or 2 to get through this here. So, source of creation, we are commanding for a complete restoration of the frequencies of divine sacred sexuality in our sacral chakra and divine sacred reciprocity in all our exchanges of energy. We are commanding for a restoration of our sense as a divine, sensual, energetic being, of our sense as a divine, innocent, creator being. Just giving it a minute for that code to land through our multidimensional bodies, radiating through all dimensions of our body in all time, space, and all parallel selves in all of our genetics. Nicely done. Okay, going into the root chakra. So I think I briefly touched on the root chakra in a previous transmission. So we're going to just kind of lightly touch on it again. The root chakra is really actually our sense of reality. It is our physicality. It's our whole entire physical body. It's how we relate to our body. It's how we think of our body. It's how we perceive our body and our physical experience all together. And so, for the most part, when we're born, we're shared with this program that our physical reality is this cement, square, hard reality. And it basically tells you that you have to abandon everything that is who you really are to even fit in, to even survive. You're going to have to give up most of your life to survive inside of it. And so there's that tells you that there's not enough for everyone. There's a scarcity energy. I'm going to say something kind of edgy here. I believe that if no woman is sexually repressed, meaning if they're allowed, or allowed is even just the stupidest word ever, if they are free, if it's natural, if it's normal for women to freely be in our society, to express ourselves as we are without being afraid of being attacked and judged and laughed at or ridiculed, or if it's just normal for us to be ourselves. Is that too much to ask? I believe there would be no scarcity, because as the woman body is the womb, is the place that new creation is gestated, the amount of cosmic creation energy that can be pulled through the womb, it is infinite. And because, life force energy is actually what sustains us, when life force energy is freely flowing through our women, there can't be poverty. That is not an energy that can exist in the fabric of reality itself. And I know that, it's kind of an edgy belief, but, there's truth in it. You can kind of feel or make the connection, because when you think about it, women aren't even allowed to be shirtless in public, and men are, right? And in ancient traditions, you see in African tribes that even though women are wearing clothes, is their breasts that are exposed. Why? Because the cosmic energy of nurturance it needs to be freely flowing for our community to be healthy, for our community to be nurtured, for our community to feel safe, to feel like there's abundance of cosmic creation energy. And so we grew up in a reality where there's poverty and lack and repression. All, the controllers, the multidimensional beings, the fallen angels, like they understand all of these things. That is why women aren't allowed to wear shirts. That is why, patriarchy goes to suppress and oppress women. They really put the game up. It's not really about men versus women, right? Like patriarchy is not at all about it being the men's fault. The men were definitely programmed to abuse and suppress the women, and they were used as pawns to create poverty in our world. There's no war between the men and the women. The war is artificial. It was a curse that was created, right? So when we're in the natural world, men do not naturally feel an urge to attack women. That would be counterproductive. Naturally, men feel a desire to nurture and protect and to love women, and women have that same natural urge for men. And there is naturally a high level of respect and reciprocity and love between the genders. This natural understanding of our natural differences, all of these things have been heavily attacked by the false matrix. And going right down into the belief that the reality is artificial or the reality is dead. There's no life force flowing through brick buildings. So we're going to go ahead and bring the energy through here for a complete clearing of the root chakra. There's also a seal here in the root chakra that is coming up to be cleared. Whew. There's usually an implant in the back, the lower back. This is where you experience, if you have lower back pain, then chances are you also have money worries or a worry relating to your society not supporting you or not being able to survive. So it's a very survival-based kind of support energy. And our tailbone and the back of our pelvic girdle, this is usually where I find this netting, where we believe that we're a slave to the artificial matrix. It is a reptilian overlay, a reptilian implant that it's kind of like a karma sidestep implant. It's kind of like your agreement to being a part of the society, so that gives them permission to hijack and siphon your energy. So we're going to go ahead and command for this implant that is being zoned in on, this implant relating to reptilian overlay in our tailbone and lower sacral back of the body. Which tricks us into believing that we are a slave, or that the only way we can survive is by participating in the false matrix, that the false matrix is your God. The false matrix is what gives you life, and is a complete lie, because the false matrix is constantly stealing energy from our mother planet and is making you believe that it's your source, that the false matrix is the source, that the false matrix is your Earth Mother. And let's clear that distortion and that lie right out. Whew. And it's almost like this tail. It's like your root, right? I feel like that we all have this etheric tail. And many of us, we have that etheric tail connected into the false matrix. We believe that that's where our sustenance and our life force comes from. And it's a very abusive relationship, right? It's like it's constantly telling us that we have to compromise and we have to give away the most valuable and sacred parts of ourselves to it in order to be deserving and worthy of its life force and support. So we want to just completely detangle and remove those roots from the false matrix. Whew, you can really feel that one. Just want to pull back energy from the false matrix, almost like we're retracting our tail or retracting our roots. And then we're going to just send that roots right back down into the crystalline new earth, into the true Mother Earth energy. Whew. And realizing that it is nature, it is an organic source that gives life, that gives you source, creational life force energy, right? This is where the source of your creational energy comes from, not the false matrix. And this reality here, right, you can tell that it's unconditionally loving, unconditionally giving, nurturing, and supportive, and expansive, and beautiful. So this is actually the organic reality that you want to live in. It's not abusive at all, right? Nice. I can really feel that one, y'all. It's a powerful one. Whew. So if you're really feeling this, I have a recording on my YouTube channel. It's called the Organic Root System, and it's an entire 45-minute healing just relating to this code. So I highly recommend it. It came through on the 444 portal earlier this year. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and remove the seal from the root chakra here. Source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing, removal of this, I call it like the seal of death, because it's keeping your vessel from being able to flow life force energy through here, or the gate of death there. So source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing and removal of the seal, the gate of death, placed in the root chakra in all dimensions and all of time space, removing and clearing all blockage in this area of the body, which hinders our life force from flowing through freely, for us to channel life force energy through our bodies freely. And as well, we're clearing all portals open into all negative dimensions or demonic energy. We're clearing all attachments and cords connecting into reversal fields. We're commanding for a complete clearing of all reversal demonic energies from our lower body, as well as completely liberating this seal, liberating the gate of life, restoring the gate of life to flow freely, allowing energy to flow freely through our vessel into the multidimensional organic reality. Whew. Pulling that one out of the physical body's memory. Okay. So I'm just going to do a general field clearing before we do this next part, because I'm just getting the intel that we are really doing some massive planetary work right now. So source of creation, we're commanding for a complete clearing of all vibrations not of love, not of our own soul's essence, all energies no longer in resonance with our highest embodiment of our soul's love, joy, and mission at this time. In all dimensions, in all of time, space, in all of our field, in all of our genetics. All right, guys, there's 144 people all together on this call right now. It's significant because we are embarking on this planetary collective ceremony here. We're going to go down into the soul star chakra. And the soul star chakra is about 6 inches below the feet. And the earth star chakra is so amazing. I see it almost like this mycelial network of intelligence. This is the place that we feel union and communion with living, all living creatures on this organic planet. And so when our when our earth star chakra is open, we feel deeply psychically connected to all living beings, not in this like kind of mental way, but more in this like embodied, joyful, proud to be alive, happy to be a part of it, this really deep tribal communal energy. And, our severing from our Earth Star chakra is really the reason why, there's so much infighting and people just can't seem to get on the same page. Even in our community, we want to point fingers and attack each other. So connecting down into the Earth Star chakra, we're all going to be able to kind of reconnect. Yeah, you feel that release already, that relief of being supported with being supported by all of life. And this union that you feel, this, belonging, this deep soul and physiological level of belonging that just is by being. You're part of this intricate weave, this web of life that infinitely loves and supports you so, so much. And within that web, there's just so much complexity and divine biodiversity. And you're a part of all of that. You are part of the divinity and the beauty of all of that. And you are a part of all of that with your fellow human beings, with your tribe, with your design. Woo, I can feel that energy coming down through the spine. And it's almost like we're activating the planetary Earth star network here, shooting that. It's like almost like it looks like just the sparks of neural circuitry, but inside the earth, between all living beings, that includes all the human beings. And we're just activating that and awakening people to that. Whew. It's really profound. And of course, when we're connected down to that level of life, we feel deep, deep inside of us that we truly are so supported by life itself, that there's so much living creation and wonder that nourishes every dimension of our being. So just anchor in that vibration. Really just in awe of this level of unity that we can feel with all of life. really have any words for the profound energy that I feel flowing through us in oneness with the Earth Mother, pulsing as a planetary oneness, pulsing this vibration of joy towards our human brothers and sisters. Sorry for the rough cut there. So, our channel is open. I just wanted to bring in this one last code here of this. You know, I keep saying that if we do our inner work, that's how we align with our mission. And there's a part of our physical self that it's like, well, you know, we are here to do stuff. And it's true, we are here to be ground crew. We're here to make a difference on the earth plane. But in the path of mastery, it's like you need to come into this energy of mastery first, and then the creation begins. Because the higher vibration that you are, the more embodied that you are, the more cosmic creation energy you're flowing through your vessel, the more potent the solutions you're going to be able to create. And so you think about a person, you know, how difficult it might seem to you in this now moment on some level of your being to just create millions of dollars, right? It's like if I had $1 million today, I would go and open up places for people that are recovering from human trafficking. I will fund police projects to shut down human trafficking. You know, with creative energy, these are the things that are possible. If we embody our creator energy, we can exist in a state of empowerment where we're literally making so much impact in the world that our current self, you know, would just not even be able to conceive of the ways to get there. And so when we actually clear our vessel, we begin to create the resources that we need. We begin to create the people that are in resonance with those missions that we would need the help of to complete those level of impact on the planet. And so, you know, I know that this works because 2 years ago I lived in my car. And, you know, now through really practicing all these things, really practicing these things, embodying my divinity and doing this healing work has been my priority for 7 years. Even when I lived in my car, even when I was homeless for years. And, you know, when I finally began to get it and embody these higher dimensional energies, within 18 months, my husband and I were able to create, you know, a thriving business, a school with over 200 students now, you know, embodying this mastery. And we were able to build 2 houses. And, you know, this is really only the beginning of us actually beginning to express our creatorhood. And so it's like without having done all of that inner work, though, I still would just be frustrated right now having the visions and not being able to do anything. And so where it's not just a spiritual concept. When we begin to clear our vessel and embody our source level creativity, we really become these infinite creator beings that begins to connect with higher dimensional parts of ourself, that begin to align with cosmic universal consciousness, and the level of service and the amount of creativity that we can engage with on that level is just infinitely more than, you know, when we're not oscillating in that vibration, and I'm still in the beginning of that. I haven't even hit my solar return yet, you guys. And so I'm really just here reflecting this path as a way shower, as a trailblazer, that the inner work, it works. And there's just all of these dimensions of, restoration that we're here to do. And really, as a healer, we can begin to access this level of awareness so that we are really beginning to help people come out of the false matrix in a impactful, sustainable, grounded, foundational way. So yes, I'm turning 27 this year. I'm really excited because people say that that's when you become an adult and you begin to actually get on your mission. So I'm so excited that, my higher self has woken me up a decade before this moment so that I can train and prepare for this moment now. And anyway, today was, really intense and everything. Thank you so much for joining me and sticking through it. I would love to hear your feedback. Actually, if you would please, if you have feedback, instead of emailing me, just leave it in the kind of permanent comment section of this video. Because I don't want to overwhelm my assistant with these emails, and also it would help me keep all of your feedback in the same place. So if you can just comment it on the forever comment section, not the chat box, but the forever comment section, it would be really wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm working on a super epic project right now with just a whole library of keys and codes and recordings and a manual. My intention is for anyone to be able to work through this book with the recordings and completely reconnect themselves multidimensionally to source and themselves. And it's going to become an app. So that's what I'm currently working on. It's probably going to take me a couple of more years to pull it into materialization because I had to go through so many things to learn these things, right? It's not like even if I just had the downloads, I needed the experiences and to see things for my own self to really understand, these things that I'm talking about. So Carol, the forever comment section is just below the video and not on the side. So I'm so grateful that you're all here. And this series has just been so delightful to me. Again, just a reflection of what these vessels can experience, and I'm still in the beginning of oh my God, I have a hilarious story to tell you guys. Okay, are you ready? It's really funny. So years ago, the land that I'm currently living on, the land is really a personality. She is like this incredible shamanic healer. And I have these conversations with her. And years ago, when my husband and I were finally deciding to move here full time, this was like actually the summer of 2018. The summer of 2018. The land was like, okay, one day you're gonna be doing ceremony and we're gonna pull water out of the ground. And as some of you may know, I live in the high desert of New Mexico. So it's really a beautiful desert forest, but we don't get a lot of water. And so I've always just felt like, though, when I walk through the woods, that there would be running water. And so the land says, we're going to pull water out of the ground. And as soon as I heard this message, my land steward at the time called me and told me that our like $40,000 well driller was stolen off of our land. So it was like it literally disappeared off of the land. And so I was like, wow, like she's really not kidding. And at that time, the idea seemed so out of reach to me. Like I had just had no idea how I would get to that place where I'm actually ceremonying with the land to such an extent that we're pulling water out of the ground. And so I just had these incredible activations over the last month. And, that's what inspired me to do this series because I wanted to share this energy with all of you. And so I was in the car with my husband, just, yesterday, and we're driving back from the city. And we're driving through this very magical part of our trip where it's just like these tall pine trees, and we're driving through this volcanic area. It really looks like Mount Shasta there, and also feels like Mount Shasta. And so it's a very magical part. And I just closed my eyes for a second, and all of a sudden I remembered how to do it. It's like I just felt the energy of what it feels like to be just clicked into that communion energy and be able to literally pull water out of the ground. I felt the gravitational shift. It was wild. And so the funny part is that as soon as that clicked, my husband was like, "What's that smell?" And I looked back, and one of my dogs had diarrhea, like water, just a little bit in the back seat. And it was so ridiculously hilarious to me because I literally, like, obviously I've been thinking about this for years, right? Pulling water out of the ground, feeling so disconnected from that reality. And finally, it's like, oh my God, I remember. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. And then, bam. I mean, I literally did it for like 2 seconds. And so the joke is, good news, I pulled water out of the reality. And bad news is that it came out of my dog's ass real quick. So I'm going to go back to working on that, but I thought it was so funny. I needed to share it with someone. All right, so we're going to close our energy space today, and we're just going to request that our higher self and our galactic team to disconnect the energy to the field and to reinstate our individuality and whatnot. I'm also going to request that all of these requests and commands that were pulled in today that haven't completed, that if you would like that for the activations to just continue until they are completed, that is something that you can do. So if it is in the highest alignment of your soul and your love, and your highest source expression at this time, you may allow these frequencies to continue running and the clearing to continue to go. So yes, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I think that comment box is going to come up as soon as I end the broadcast here. And I will see you all tomorrow.